Hey guys, I'm Mark. Today I wanted to give you guys a tour of all the tropical plants that we keep for ourselves here at our nursery. These are a lot of different plants that will not survive our winters here in zone 6B, 7A here at the farm, but we're able to keep them because we have greenhouses that we can store them in over the winter time. A lot of these larger plants we like to use to set here and there around the nursery and then also around the farm itself, down at the farmhouse, and then sometimes like for birthdays or special occasions, we'll put some things down by the creek when we have a party or something like that. But some of them are really interesting and pretty old, and they have some cool stories behind them. So we'll go through each one and what it is, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. To the left of me here, we'll start off with is a Ficus elastica. This is a rubber tree. It's a popular house plant for a lot of people. You'll see this here and there around. These particular ones are about 30 years old. They've been in these pots for a while. You can see the crown down here has become quite large, and we've pruned these back quite a bit. They will take a heavy trimming, and we do that about once a year, because if we didn't trim them, they would get to the point where we just flat out wouldn't be able to get them inside and out of the greenhouse again. But they take a trim very well. These plants in the wild will get upwards of 100 feet tall. In fact, in some parts of the world, they'll train the roots of these trees into bridges, into footbridges that'll span like really steep ridges with a river in between. They'll take a fallen tree and then they'll train the roots out over it that over time will get bigger, and then there'll be these footbridges that'll last for centuries. This is pretty interesting stuff. They call it rubber tree because the plant itself has this latex sort of sap to it. You can see where I just snipped it off there, that milky stuff right there. And that's what can be used to make rubber with. It's not the same rubber tree that we use for a lot of tires and things that's here in this country. That's a different type of rubber tree that's grown in South America, but this is more of an Asian type thing. Anyways, that's those are our rubber trees. We got 4 of those. Continuing on, this is a very neat specimen. This is one of our olive trees, and you can see that it's gotten pretty large. This is an older one. Here you can see the crown of it. We've never gotten any olives off of it. It seems like it blooms and then it gets these little tiny fruits on it, and they get to about the size of, well, here's some right here. They get to about the size of like a cherry pit. See that? And then they'll just kind of dry up and fall off. So I'm not entirely sure why that is. I did another video on all our tropical stuff back in the wintertime when it was all kept inside, and I did a little tour, and one of the people that commented on that video about the same issue said that it could be something to do with dormancy. It also could have something to do with not having a pollinizer. A lot of olive trees are self-fertile, at least the ones that you buy to keep in your house that are sold to to people as house plants. I'm not entirely sure if this one is one of those or not, so it might need a pollinizer, but the dormancy thing kind of struck a chord with me. I'm wondering that if we put this in a colder greenhouse this year and sort of fake it into thinking it's in like a Mediterranean winter, then that might kind of get the gears moving towards making some fruit next year. It's actually, I just noticed this. There's a hornworm hanging on here. Look at that. It's a tomato hornworm on an olive tree. That's something. It's actually the same silvery color. That's kind of neat. So that's the olive tree, and then we can move on. You're going to see we have some of our citrus trees up in standards like this, and a single like tree shape or form. This one right here is a lime tree, and we also have a lemon tree, an orange tree, and a grapefruit tree that are trimmed into actual like standard tree shapes like this. And then we have a few more of the Meyer lemons that are in more of like a bush shape. But we got 4 of these guys, and the way that you can tell the limes from the lemons is pretty much just scent. That's the only way I can tell, is when you take one off and you smell it. This just has that classic lime fragrance. It's incredible. So we got limes, lemons. I mean, there's really nothing like growing your own citrus, especially in this part of the world. We can't buy citrus like this at the store. I don't know what it's like to live in Florida or somewhere down south where you have a lot more citrus available to you. But as far as living this far north, you just can't beat citrus that you grow yourself. Going forward this way, this is a passion flower. You can see on this side right here, there's a bloom that's opened up. Isn't that wonderful? So that's a very interesting flower. This plant is kind of neat. It comes through in stages. It kind of like cycles with blooms. It'll get a whole bunch of blooms on it at once, and then it'll just kind of green out and you won't have much going on, and then it just goes through these cycles. But you can see there's a lot of buds on here where it's about to start blooming pretty heavily again. But this is a very nice plant in general. It doesn't have too many diseases or pest issues at all. We've had this for many years now. What's giving it shade is what a lot of people would just call a ficus tree. This is Ficus Benjamina, or Benjamin fig. And you see a lot of these in malls or hotels, things like that. We've got a pretty sizable collection of these. A lot of people remark about the pots. They say, wow, that's such a big tree in such a small pot. And they seem to be happy in here, honestly. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I don't think there's much soil left at all or growing medium left in these pots. I think a lot of that is just kind of decomposed and rinsed out the bottom, and what's left is just sort of this matrix of roots in there. It's kind of like a hydroponic fig tree. All we do is we give it water-soluble fertilizer. I call it blue water, or fertigation water. And that's all it gets, and it just seems like it loves life that way. We might pot it up eventually, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's the Benjamin fig. Continuing on over here, we've got some curcumas. This is flowering ginger. Over here is probably a better example. We got a couple different colors of this. This is that lilac one. I'm a big fan of lilac myself. Look, there's a snail in there. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. He's getting something to drink, looks like. I've heard people call this tulip ginger. Well, what we've noticed is that the lilac one like this is pretty nice because the blooms come up above the plant and they stand out really well. I'll show you a red one over here. That's nice also, but the blooms just kind of stay hidden down in the plant. So if you like red, I mean, you can use it in, I guess, like a cut flower display. It would be fine for that, but the lilac ones, I mean, who doesn't love that? Them coming up through the leaves like this. It's an interesting plant because these don't emerge out of the soil until like late May, June for us. It emerges way later than a lot of other things that we keep. You'll see just bare soil. You'll almost think that it's dead for the longest time until we start getting into that really warm, hot weather. And then you'll see the shoots come up out of the pot. And then this is what it turns into. So that's flowering ginger. Got several of those. We'll swing around this way. This is our larger banana tree. We have two of them, but this is our big one. And it used to be a lot bigger than this. Back when it was in the greenhouse, it grew up into the actual supports of the greenhouse. So in order to get it out of here, we had to do quite a bit of cutting and use quite a bit of manpower. But it's okay to cut these back because the bananas will actually only grow on new wood. Last year we had about 10 bunches of bananas on this, which are just incredible. If you've never seen them before, bananas actually grow in these gigantic clusters that are very, very heavy. And if you have a banana tree, you got to be careful with that because they will snap off just under their own weight. So we found that it's useful. We learned the hard way, and we found that it's useful to use like a board to either hold them up, or in our case, since we've got them in a greenhouse, we use a rope to tie it to the ceiling itself. But people use the leaves in various types of cooking, and even when it doesn't have bananas on it, it's still a striking plant to look at. So that's our banana tree. Over here, we'll continue on to our lantanas. Look at that. There's a tiger swallowtail that was eating before I disturbed him. But that's why we like to keep these large lantanas. You can see we've got a whole bunch of them here. And we've got a whole bunch more out in the parking lot. We like them because they just draw in tons and tons of butterflies, especially right about now. We're going to start getting into the evening hours. It's just started to rain a little bit. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, so it might be driving a little bit of the butterflies out of here for now. But in the evening hours, you see them hit these guys very heavy. We have a lot of people that drive in and just come into the parking lot just for nothing else but to take pictures of the lantana and the butterflies that are on them. So we've got a bunch of different kinds. Some of these are pretty old. Some of them are as much as 30 years old that have been in these pots. So I'll go over some of the varieties. This one is called Samantha, and it's interesting because it's got this really nice variegation in the leaf. It's the only variegated lantana that we have. But I think it's kind of cool. It's good to see them right now. We've had some rain recently that took off a lot of the blooms. When it rains very, very heavy, you'll see just a whole bunch of white flowers all over the ground, and then it takes them a little bit of time to come back. So right now we're just starting to see them kind of emerge again with color. But this one over here, this is a really nice one. This is called Landmark Lemon Zest, and it's nice because it grows a lot more compact. Stays sort of short and squat relatively, and then just gets covered with blooms against a nice, real nice dark green foliage background. So that's an excellent one to use in a variety of different things, just because yellow to start with is so versatile. Plus it won't take over the entire combination if you're putting it in a pot with some other things in there. This is a neat one here. It's called Lucky Pinata. It's a nice bright rose, like a neon rose kind of color to it. That's been a popular one for a while. Come back over this way. There's a couple trailers over here that are interesting. This is a trailing lavender and a trailing white. You can see, I think somehow there's a reversion going on here. There's some lavender going on inside this white one. I don't know how that exactly happened, but this is trailing lavender and trailing white. You can see how they trail, they fall, they cascade, kind of like a petunia or something. So if you're going to put lantana in a hanging basket or in even like a tall urn or something like that, then this is a great use or great one for that. Let's see, there's another swallowtail. There's a good shot of one. So this is a lot of what we see. These larger butterflies are these eastern tiger swallowtail butterflies. We also have black swallowtails that are very popular around here, and then of course the monarch. But they all love the lantana, and then a bunch of these little smaller butterflies too, all different kinds of those. This one here is called Confetti Purple Yellow. That's this one, and then the one to your left of it there. All the colors seem to attract the butterflies pretty equally, we find. It's hard to say that one color is more preferable than the next. I mean, they just sort of have a smorgasbord on everything, it seems to us. But as far as I'm concerned, I like these lilac colored ones. This one's called Pink Caprice. Back over here, it's a nice lavender color, a little bit of a white eye going on inside of it. Just a nice softer tone. This is a good example to show you how old they are. I was talking about how old some of these plants are. You can see in there, that's the crown of it. So it's been in this pot for quite some time. So those are some of those guys. Now we'll come over to this side of things. A lot of people don't know what this is. This is a bay tree. So if you get bay leaves in a jar at the grocery store, like your spices, that's where these come from. Some of these suckers down here have got some really, really nice, fresh looking leaves on them. I think if we're gonna take some and put them in a jar or give some away to people, then those will be the ones to take right there. But it's a nice, pretty tree, good standard. Underneath of the bay trees, we've just got a few odds and ends. This isn't typical aloe vera that you use for your cuts and your bruises and your scrapes and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not bruises, but you know where I'm going. There's a couple Christmas cactuses that don't look like much right now, but around Christmas time, January, they're loaded with colors. So we've got a bunch of different Christmas cactuses that we've gotten from a bunch of different people, different colors and whatnot. This is a Cymbidium Orchid. And if you look at the other video that I was talking about that I took back in the wintertime, these were just loaded with blooms. So if you want to see what they look like, and the Christmas cactuses, or the Christmas cacti, excuse me, you can go back and check out that video. But these are a very, very pretty flower. Moving on, here's an avocado tree that kind of grew up and flopped over. But I think eventually we train it back up again. It's going to wind up doing something pretty cool with the trunk. I think it'll be an interesting specimen. That was grown from seed. Here is the lemon tree, the standard lemon that I was talking about. There's going to be a good harvest on that this year. Looks like there's quite a bit of fruits going on in there. Down here is the miniature banana. This is our friend John gifted this to us. Much smaller plant. I don't think it gets a whole lot taller than that right there. We haven't seen any fruits develop on that one yet. I'm not sure if it does that or not, but I'm anxious to see how that turns out going forward. This is a really nice hibiscus, a tropical hibiscus that was gifted to us as well. There's another flower over here that had some, yeah, look at that. Isn't that crazy? I like how it goes from red to yellow to red and then back to yellow again. These are interesting plants down here. This is rue. Now this is an herb that has a bunch of different medicinal uses. What they are, I'm not entirely sure. I wouldn't be the one to ask on that. But what I like it for is it's a host plant for the black swallowtail butterfly. And if you get really close, let me see if I can stop shaking it so that the camera can pick this up. You can see that there's larvae of little black swallowtails all over this plant. So the black swallowtails will lay their eggs on this, and then they'll just form little caterpillars. And I'm looking for one that, here we go. Let's come in here. I don't want to disturb him, but there's a larger one right there. Beautiful caterpillar. So we love our host plants. Try to have as many of them as possible. Then here's a couple Meyer lemon trees. This is one that I got from my friend Carrie. It's already got fruit on it this year, which is pretty wild. It's got a lot of fruit on it. Look at that. For such a small tree, that's pretty incredible. So there's one, and then here's another guy. This one I got from my friend Andre. And it's a testament to that blue water. You can see that's how much soil it's in right now. I mean, something needs to be done with this pretty bad, but it's been in here for a while and it looks like it's doing just fine. I love that blue fertigation water. And then behind this this English ivy Christmas tree is the grapefruit. And this is just totally loaded. Some years, it seems, are better than others when it comes to these citrus trees, especially the grapefruit. You'll have a gigantic flush of fruit, and then you'll kind of get like a smaller flush of fruit, and then another big one again. And this is coming up on one of those big ones. You can see, let's see. See, it's just starting to turn a little bit on the shoulders up here. Some pink and yellow going on, but this is probably going to be around Christmas time when these start to be ready to harvest. Gotta love your citrus. Let's see, around the corner, Duranta. This is a fun plant as long as you don't get too close to it because it does have spines. This is something that we are too cold here in our climate, here in our zone 7. We can't grow this outside, but if you're a little bit farther south, then you might be able to get away with growing this outside. But we just like to have it just for how bright it is. Like if we were having like a birthday party, as I mentioned earlier, down in the woods or down by the creek or something like that, then this, put down in a woods environment where it's real nice and dark, just totally explodes. Very interesting for that, but Duranta, cool plant. Behind here is the orange tree, so that's the last of the citrus. Well, we got one more, but this is the last of the tall citrus. And that's about as big as these will get, but they're starting to turn orange. This is, I almost forgot this one. This is my favorite. This is our large Meyer lemon. And it's not cut in, or pruned into a standard. It's just a regular bush, but this will get loaded. We just had an enormous harvest off of this plant, and then now it's kind of going into that cycle where it's going to get a smaller harvest, and then it will, I presume, flower back out and have another huge harvest after that. So it's kind of funny how they work for us in that way. Over here we have some Mandevilla. Mandevilla they're very nice plants. We sell a lot of these, but because we sell a lot of Mandevilla, we like to trial these plants out. Anything that we grow a lot of, we want to see how it performs throughout the summer for us under our own conditions. And that's what these guys are doing right here. This is the Sun Parasol series by Suntory. And there's a bunch of different colors. And the reason why we trial is because we want to see if something is sort of weak to start out with and then becomes a lot more robust, or vice versa. If it starts out strong and then it kind of peters off throughout the season. We want to know all those kinds of things. So case in point would be, this is the striped one, and it's got a beautiful bloom on it. Nice striped blossom. You can see it's almost like a peppermint stick. But as of right now in the season, it's not covered with a whole lot of blooms compared to what's behind it, which is the dark red. And you can see this is just full of blooms. But they're healthy plants in general. We're really happy with this series. This is a standard pink one. Now, typically we grow pink and red in about equal proportions. We find that people like the red just as much as they like the pink. Personally, I'm more of a red guy, but that's what our numbers say. But we've got a few more colors to throw into the mix here. We've got a white one. It's a very nice white. It's got a lot of blooms on it for a white one. And then you can see there's a light pink one, a little bit different. And then here on the ends are just, I think this is just a couple extras that didn't make it over with their buddies. This is another striped one here, and that one's not blooming at the moment. There's another pink one. But they're a fun plant to grow, especially if you like hummingbirds. Nothing seems to really bring in hummingbirds like Mandevilla. They just go crazy for them, especially the red variety. We see a lot of hummingbirds just fighting over these plants. They're very territorial birds, believe it or not. These right here are papaya trees. I've never seen a papaya tree until we grew them ourselves here at the nursery. And I just love the way they grow. They got a single stem. They kind of grow like a palm tree or like a dracaena, kind of in the way that they just, one leaf comes, it falls off, and they just keep growing and growing and growing straight like that. It's a beautiful plant. I can't wait to see what they look like when they fruit, or if they fruit. And that's sort of a point, the point or a point with a lot of these kinds of plants is it's just an experiment for us in a lot of cases. We don't know what they're going to do. We've never seen somebody grow one before. So it's like, hey, we've got a greenhouse. Let's try it out. Somebody might gift something to us, or an employee might bring something in and be like, hey, somebody gave me this. Do you guys have room for it? And it's like, cool, yeah, let's see what it does. So those are papayas. And then this is an avocado tree. And this is a few years old now. It was planted from seed. I'm interested to see when or if this is going to start producing avocados. So if you know anything about growing avocados, or at least growing them in a small form in a pot like this, please leave a comment and let us know what to expect. I don't know if this is going to grow for 10 more years and not produce a fruit, or if it's going to potentially produce a fruit next year. I have no idea, but maybe you guys can let us know. So that's about it for right now. Those are all our tropical selection for what we have outside of what we call the Stuppy greenhouses. If you have any suggestions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do, because that helps the channel out greatly. It gets my videos up in front of more people. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. I'll see you next time.